Ah. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And you are warmly welcome to Open Dialogue with the theme, the role of open knowledge. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry. Can you give me a moment?
Hi, everyone. Christabel is having some challenges, so I'll take over from here till she joins us. So, like she was saying, the reason for us being here is that we are commemorating the World Environment Day 2022. And then we are discussing the role of open knowledge in global environmental change in a digital era. So we are privy to be blessed with 4 speakers. I think for now we have about 2, so we'll wait for the 2 more, then we'll officially begin. But before the others the others join us, I would want to introduce the speakers that are already here. So I have here in the person of Mr. Daniel Abugri Anoriga. He's a journalist, and then he's also an environmentalist as well. So Mr. Anoriga, if you would want to introduce yourself quickly.
Yes, good afternoon. So, as he rightly mentioned, I am Daniel Abugri Anoriga, a journalist and a Wikipedian, and co-founder of the Gurani Wikimedia community, an indigenous community, and part of the Wikimedia Foundation. Then, as an environmentalist, has worked in the green space or the environmental climate change space for over 6 years now, and that's been so far. My work has spanned through these 3 things that I mentioned in the area of journalism and as a Wikipedian, and then as an environmentalist. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anoriga. And then the second person is Mr. Otuo-Akyampong Boak. So if you can hear me, Mr. Otuo-Akyampong, you can kindly introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. As earlier said, my name is Mr. Otuo-Akyampong Boak. I'm the president and founder of Eco Warriors Movement. I'm an environmental research scientist, a climate advocate, and an environmentalist myself. So I've been in this space for, I think since 2012, I've been in this space, and I've been doing more work, both research and practical, so far as environmental sustainability is concerned. And I'm happy to share whatever I have. I'm also a Wikipedian, so I make good use of the open movement and open knowledge as well. Thank you. Eugene, I think you are muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Mr. Otuo. So I would also want to introduce our third speaker. She is in the person of Mrs. Damenshie-Brown, and she is speaking from the Wikimedia Foundation. So maybe if you can kindly introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, Eugene. My name is Damenshie-Brown from Ghana, and I'm currently a fellow at the Wikimedia Foundation. Proud that I have been a programs manager at Open Foundation West Africa, where we organize a lot of campaigns within the Wikimedia movement. So I'm happy to be here to share some knowledge and insights on the topic. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ruby. So to begin with, I think Christabel is ready now, so I'll just hand over to her then. She'll proceed with the dialogue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Eugene. Thank you very much, everyone, for making it a point to join us in our open dialogue today. As rightly said, the theme for today's discussion has to do with the role of open knowledge when it comes to environmental change, especially in the digital era. So we are going to have a nice moment where we are going to take opinions and views from our speakers as to how we can use open knowledge to help promote or create the awareness of the environmental crisis we are having and the solutions that can be put in place to help us have a healthy planet, as the hashtag goes, only one Earth. So yeah, we'll take a short statement from Emmanuel Ameyaw, if he's here. Yes, he's from Youth Climate Council Ghana, to give us a short statement on why we are here. Thank you.
Yeah, hello everyone. Good afternoon. It's good to be here. My name is Emmanuel. As she rightly stated, I'm the Communications and Outreach Officer for the Youth Climate Council, and I'm also privileged to be a speaker for this event. We are the Youth Climate Council acknowledge the importance of public education on climate change, and so we are happy and excited to partner with the Open Foundation West Africa and the Wikimedia Foundation in creating awareness on climate change. Afrobarometer points out that climate awareness is pegged at about 44% essentially of Ghanaians have never heard of climate change. They don't know what it is about. And so an open dialogue like this is very important in the right step in the right direction. And so as we join, we hope that we'll have a very fruitful event. And I wish us all the best in today's event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I would want to pass a quick statement. I would want to state that the dialogue here is facilitated by the friendly space policy. So we are saying that if anyone has any question or wants to contribute during this dialogue, kindly raise your hand so that we would give you the opportunity to speak. And we don't want to have any interruptions when any of our speakers are presenting. And then I would also want to state that if there are any challenges with you unmuting your microphone, that is because we have muted everyone to allow the speakers to present. So right after their presentation, we'll open the floor for questions and suggestions. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. So, as I said, this session is going to be fun because we are going to have insightful views coming from our various speakers. So without wasting much time, I'd like to engage our speakers as to whoever is ready, as to the fact that you are called upon and in your various capacities as either climate change activist or a Wikimedian promoting climate change or promoting environmental issues within your space. We are calling on you, or we've called on you actually, to come and tell us how you think we can all come together in promoting a healthy environment for ourselves. So I would like to use this opportunity to take short statements on the expectations of our speakers today on what people should know at the end of the session. So I'll start with Ruby. Ruby, what do you expect at the end of the session?
Okay, thank you so much, Christabel. I think this is a very great opportunity for people to learn what open knowledge is and how important it is in our world today, especially in promoting environmental change. So this is what I'm expecting, that people get insight about what open knowledge is, the kind of open knowledge platforms that we have that they can leverage on, and why it's important. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are joined here also by Mr. Maxwell Beganin. He is a training associate of Open Foundation West Africa and also a climate change activist. So, Mr. Maxwell, since you are here, you have the floor to tell us what you expect at the end of the session.
Okay, so thank you very much, Christabel, and then thank you very much also, Ruby. Can you all hear me? Perfect, perfect. So, yeah, my name is Maxwell, just as Christabel has mentioned, and I'm really excited to be part of this conversation because it tells us that knowledge is very important, and some of us who work within the knowledge management, seeing a lot more people getting excited and then wanting to know more about how knowledge or the development of knowledge helps in mitigating some of the issues of climate change. So what I expect that we all would learn after the event is, or would take away, is to leverage on the existing tools and then be innovative and the innovative ways of solving the issues of climate change. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Maxwell. So, Otuo, if you are there, you have the floor to also tell us what your expectations are at the end of today's session.
Thank you. So, what I'm looking at is, at the end of the day, we'll be able to create the maximum awareness needed and to be able to kickstart in young people the willingness to start an environmental action. And for that matter, to put in place measures to address the triple planetary crisis. So I'm believing that by the end of the day, our listeners will be exposed. One, they'll be informed. Two, and they'll be ready to start an action. Thank you.
Okay, so just as the UN has globally called us to a collective and transformative, yes, as to come up with urgent actions in curbing the environmental crisis, let's see what, or hear from Daniel Ameyaw, who is actually a journalist, as to what he expects at the end of the session.
All right. And so expectations, at the end of the day, we should get to understand the role of the media in protecting the environment. And then the second bit will also look at how the media is using open knowledge to conserve the environment. Then the last bit is to provide the audience the opportunity to ask questions concerning the role of the media in shaping perception and even creating an eco-conscious society, so that we are all at the same page, because the media isn't only about the mainstream media. The media is broad, and there's so many sectors that young people or the population can leverage on. So at the end of the day, yes, these three things should be ticked and marked as done. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe Emmanuel Ameyaw has already given us a bit of what he expects, or that was an open statement. Emmanuel Ameyaw. Hey, sorry, Emmanuel Ameyaw.
Yeah, the name is Emmanuel Ameyaw. I'm not your boy, but again, thank you. I think that this event is important, and I hope that my expectation is simple. I am expecting that after this dialogue would spark a conscious youth movement, and people will be able to ask the right questions when it comes to our environment, and also people would be able to create the needed awareness, especially on social media and other platforms that young people have access to. So for me, it's good. I'm excited and yeah, ready to share my perspective on the issue.
Okay, so I believe we are all excited to actually be on this platform. So as I stated earlier, there has been a global call. This is in commemoration with the World Environment Day celebration, and we are called to for a collective transformative action on a global scale to celebrate, protect, and restore the planet. So yes, we are actually going to have very important discussions, I mean very sensitive ones, because day in, day out, after 1972, since this celebration was established at the UN conference, it seems that many leaders have actually come up or have agreed to help protect the environment. But till date, what do we see? We see lots and lots of crises coming up, and it's like we are stealing from the future generation. So there is going to be deliberations in these areas, and we hope that our various speakers will come up and tell us what we need to know, because the theme has to do with the role of open knowledge. So the knowledge they are going to make it known to us without us paying anyways. It's going to be free, so that we, the listeners or the audience, will take it out there, as our speakers have said, to increase the awareness in curbing environmental crisis in our planet. So my first question, which we can all deliberate on, as to you telling me from your point of view what you think the environment is, and what are the pressing problems facing our environment. So yes, Ruby actually happens to be the only female here, so as the saying goes, ladies first. So she's going to tell us what the environment is and what she thinks is the most pressing problem facing our environment today. Ruby.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christopher, for this question. I mean, we all know what the environment is. I'm not coming to give any lectures here, but the environment is where we find ourselves, where you and I, wherever that you find yourself, your surrounding is basically your environment. And so right now, we've seen a lot of crises that are happening in our world. And even with the recent rainfalls that we are seeing, we've seen a lot of crises that are happening with regards to flooding. And people who do not have to die are dying just because of flooding and poor drainage. So these are some of the issues that are facing our environment today that we need to talk about and make sure that the right measures or the right adaptation measures are put in place, so that people don't have to lose their life because of a flood. Thank you. I'll leave it for others. I think there are a lot of people on the panel who are also experts on the topic. So I'll leave it for others to also share their thoughts.
So yeah, Maxwell, what's
all
your
right,
view?
so okay, so my view, it's just as Ruby said, if you look at the environment, or what constitutes the environment, I mean, we all know from maybe the basic knowledge that whatever surrounds us is the environment, and it's very key to first have that as backdrop information, or the operational understanding of what the environment is. Now, talking about the issues of the issues that we find around, it is well crafted within the triple plenary crisis, which is pollution, biodiversity loss, and then climate change. You look at these three as the fundamental blocks of how our environments are being polluted. I'll just cite one example. So if you look at our context, for example, you realize plastic pollution is one of the things that we are really battling with. Just as I said, pollution is just a block of the triple plenary crisis. So we have plastic pollution, we have air pollution. There's so much pollution that is going on. But for our context, I think plastic is one of the problems that we have here. When you buy water, it's plastic. I'll throw this challenge to us. You can sit down and actually find out if you can go a day without plastics. When you buy food, it's plastics. When you buy water, it's plastic. When you buy, so at the end of the day, what is the end? Where are these plastics ending? You realize that they go into our choke gutters, causing as part of or it serves also as a way that increases the flooding issues, causing that kind of ripple effect. So it's just one thing causing the other. If we don't take care of some of these things, we might think that it's just using it. And just as young as we are, I believe that we have young people on this call. If we don't shape the future that we want, a time would come, everything that we come in contact with plastic. Let me just share this final thought. So I was just watching a research, and then they indicated that now human fecal matter, according to the research, has strains of plastic. That means plastic has just gone from just being pollution, but then it has entered into the food chain, which my senior scientist Otuo can speak extensively on it. So this is something that we can wrap our minds around and then look at how it goes. And I don't want to talk so much. I have equally knowledgeable people on the panel that can also share their ideas on it. Thank you.
Thank you. So Nana Otuo, Maxwell has mentioned your name. What can you say about the outstanding issue?
Thank you very much. I'm happy to have a wonderful team here to do this discussion with, or this discourse with. I'm very happy seeing the team we have around. I think my colleague Maxwell shared a brief explanation of what the environment is. And so from ecological studies, we normally would say the environment refers to your immediate surrounding. However, in contemporary times and in terms of sustainable development, we look at the environment as the planet. And so nature becomes the environment. And then because these issues are interrelated and they're intercorrelated, we don't want to separate them when we're discussing them. And so, yes, the environment refers to your immediate environment. However, the whole planet also becomes an environment for humanity when you see humanity as a whole. And so when you talk about the environment, you're talking about what you see in Ghana here, what you see in around the globe, everywhere, that becomes the environment you talk about. So the planet becomes the environment, nature becomes the environment, then just your immediate surrounding also becomes the environment. The truth of the matter is that due to geographical separations and then due to geographical analysis, there are pressing environmental issues in each of the geographical settings. And so that is there. That issue should also be addressed. And so when you look at the global south, some of the issues you might be facing might be different from what those out there will be facing. However, normally we'll sit down and look at all these, average it, and then get what we think at any present time or at any time T, the whole globe is facing. And so currently, after 2020, the UN sat down, they agreed, and then they came out with the triple planetary crisis, as Maxwell talked about, that they are in fact, the leading cause so far as with environmental degradation is concerned. And they came with biodiversity loss, climate change, and then pollution. Pollution in three ways. They were looking at land pollution, water pollution, they were looking at air pollution. It will surprise you to know that initially Ghana didn't have a problem with air pollution, but now air pollution is the second, I think, yes, is the second highest cause of death in Ghana. And so we should set up as a nation. In the 2000s and then in the early 2000s, climate change was not an issue in Ghana, in fact, but now it's an issue. Biodiversity loss, we are having zoonotic diseases now. Just this particular afternoon, I was with a team of students who were discussing monkeypox. You see, these are issues you have to think about them, not taking the environment aside. You should think about them looking at the environment because these are zoonotic diseases. And zoonotic diseases will come from animals and then they are getting to us. And so I think that when we talk about the environment and the pressing issues, I would want to be country specific and speak to the context of the Ghanaian so that we can appreciate it very well in our local setting. Yes, we can talk about international issues, but let's leave that for international conferences when we are speaking on international platforms. But since we are in Ghana here, and then we are doing this basically to create awareness for the young people in Ghana to understand and appreciate the fact that environmental degradation is having a cause, it's having a problem, it's having an impact on our social being, it's having an impact on our economic being, it's having an impact even on our moral aspects of life. I think we have to limit it to Ghana as a nation. And that is where I would want to zero in and draw more attention and concentrate my energies. My learned colleague Maxwell talked about plastic pollution. Not too long ago, I started a campaign, Plastic Strike. Those who have been following on social media can attest to it. Yes, we are doing a plastic strike as Eco Warriors movement because the quantum of, now when you do waste stream analysis of any household in Ghana, and I'm talking about waste stream analysis by quantity, not by percentage mass. When you do waste stream analysis of every household in Ghana, you realize that the percentage composition of plastic is higher than any other thing. Gone are the days where we used to have about 60% by mass organic waste. Now it's totally reduced. The last thing I did with some students, we were having about, I'm not talking about by mass, but this time I'm talking about by volume and composition. We're having something around 80% plastic waste composition. And that is an issue for us to discuss as Ghanaians. That is a point we have to sit down as young people to discuss. And so for me, the current issue, the present issue for us as Ghanaians is plastic pollution. And that's, we have to look at it with a keen eye and a red eye. In as much as we develop advocacy points around it, we should also develop practical ways. And then let me talk about the three-legged approach to sustainable development so that we can appreciate this. Please forgive me if I'm doing a little bit scientific and lecture thing. I do lecture, so some of these things will come up when I'm talking about them. You know, when we talk about sustainability, there is this three-legged approach that we use to it. We are looking at the society as one point, you're looking at the environment at one point, and you're looking at the economy at one point. So we are able to juxtapose the three and get a point where these three will meet. We are not developing sustainability. And so we look at the sustainable development goals, all the 17 of them, they are addressing the 5 P's of development. But all the 5 P's of development resonates on this three-legged approach I've taught us now. So we look at society, we look at the economy, then we look at the environment. But it looks like in contemporary terms, you're looking at socio-economic development, not enviro-socio-economic development. And so we are living out the environment, then we are considering socio-economic development. That is where we are getting to where we are now. And so, yes, I want it to be very practical, not too theoretical and too scientific. So I would want to calm down some of these things and leave it for others to also share their thoughts on it. And as we go forward, we'll try to look into it and then talk more about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that has been insightful. The other speakers will bear witness to that. But in as much as we speak about the issue, we have to look at the aftermath of what it's causing to the environment. So, Anyariga, if you can help us, what has been the impact, or what will be the impact on us? And like Otuo has mentioned society, he has mentioned the environment, he has mentioned the economy. So what will this impact of this environment crisis do to us? One, as a society, two, as human beings living in it, and three, our economy, if you can help us in that aspect.
Okay. Now we can divide this into 2 phases to look at it on the impact of it on the economic growth of the country and as individuals. Then the second part would be looking at development as a whole. So having social, cultural, and other forms of growth in it. Now, to start from the earlier points, to talk about economic growth. Now, the impact of it is that currently, as we speak, Ghana has banned the exportation of certain grains, with maize included. Yes, it's been blamed. You know, the government has said that, okay, because of the Russia-Ukraine war, that is why they are banning that to make sure that there's enough food. But aside that, there are other issues that are also affecting the food security and the water security. Let's put it simply this way. When we say food security, we mean the amount of food that is readily available to us to eat, in simple terms. Water security, the amount of water, potable water, available to us as humans, as Ghanaians in our homes, to consume and to use for both industrial and domestic purposes. The impact on economic growth is that if you wake up in the morning, you don't have potable water to drink, and you and I know that water is life. So if you close our eyes and to the things that are negatively affecting the environment, to the sun waning, to the galamsey, to the tree felling, and to other things that are destroying the environment, making sure that we get potable water, then economic growth-wise, we are going to go down the drain. We wouldn't be able to make some money. That is true. That means some jobs will be lost because the cost of production would have increased. In this phase again, we are looking at industrialization as the engine of growth. In Ghana, you know, developing countries are looking at how best they can push their growth to another level, and even to rub shoulders with the developed countries. Now, if the factors that are supposed to support your industrialization are being tampered with, are being reduced, then that means that your industrialization will fail. So if you need some things, for instance, we're still looking at the economic growth and how the impact of the destruction of the environment And so what the impact of UE destroying the environment on economic growth? If we fail to understand the connection between environment and economic growth, then we have no will, and there's nothing that will push us to speak up and to understand the impending dangers of what we are doing today. So that's for the economic growth. Now we look at development as a whole. Now development looks at social development, cultural development, and other things. The impact of climate change, the impact of environmental degradation goes beyond just the food that we eat. It also impacts relations. When there's a change in the environment, it will affect land tenure issues. It will also affect the way people relate with others in terms of family. Now, people would move all the way from the northern region, the upper east, the upper west, into the southern sector of Ghana. Why? Because they have only one rainy season and a long dry season. Now, if they are moving, because they're moving down to work, get some money, when it's the rainy season, they go back again. So here you have migration. And when people migrate, that means that where they come from become less developed. So you would have cases where people from Upper East are in Accra, and some of them wouldn't be able to trace back to their roots. So what happens then? So there's migration, and there's the number of people who move back to their family to reconnect and to even develop their communities is less. The impact of environmental degradation shouldn't be looked at it only from the economic perspective, but here in case also the social perspective. Now people have to move miles away to access water, to access the basic needs of life. Young women wouldn't be able to get the best of sexual and reproductive health because if they don't have enough water to clean themselves when they are in their menstruation, that's a problem. That means they wouldn't be able to attend lectures, attend classes. When you pick up these various campuses where there are water crises, they wouldn't be able to attend lectures. They wouldn't be able to even go to the basic school that would have been possible if they had water closer to them. So the whole issue about environmental degradation is that the impact needs to be understood. But how then do you make people understand that what you're doing today would affect you in the near future? It is when you put it in their minds for them to understand that, look, whatever you're doing here will cause this. So here you more become like a prophet, saying that what you're doing is going to cause a problem. So don't do it again. But people are individualistic, so they tend to look at more of their profit gains. But as a collective, in changing that mindset, in building an eco-conscious society, you tend to now use examples. And those examples are really happening here, where you cite a situation to say that, look, now people within Accra don't have water at some points in the days or in the months. What is the issue? Oh, they said, no, people are doing some galamsey here, and that is why it's affecting them. Now, when we are able to make people understand that it's because of galamsey that is the reason for they not having the water, that is what is happening now. Would these people also wake up and then go to do the galamsey? Because it would have cost them a lot. So the whole issue about environmental degradation, its impact, all boils down to the eco-conscious society. That if we really indeed want people to act right, it's about a mindset. It's a behavioral thing. Would someone understand that I have the money to pay for the waste I'm creating, but do I think about where the waste ends? That is when the media comes in to do more of education, to do more of advocacy, sensitization, and come out with facts and figures to convince the population that, look, whatever you're doing, you need to change the approach. Yes, the rich are few, and they are controlling a lot of resources and properties. When you pick a young person and you ask him or her to explain environmental degradation in the local language, that young person is not going to use tenses or phrases in English, the person would try as much as possible to use things closer to him, closer things within the language to explain environmental degradation. And that is how people will tend to understand and appreciate what it means to mine illegally, pollute the water bodies, and its impact on the society. It all comes back again and asks the question that, how do we then build an eco-conscious society when people don't have a connection to their own language and a connection to the environment? If you ask someone to explain climate change, the person will explain climate change in English brilliant, in a brilliant form. But when you ask that same person, explain climate change in your local language, the person tends to use, oh, Ushinrua. I'm not an Akan, I speak Groningen. So I would use tenses to say, Honan Nora Homoro, be Honan Matatese, be Honan Rigdumiye, Kasan, Tingala. These are tenses that I'm using. These are examples that are, this is the, how to call it, the experiences of the people that I'm speaking to them. So most of the communication, yes, we might try to use the English to build an eco-conscious society to understand the impact of it. But using language as a key tool, not only English language, but using a local language will bring people to understanding that in as much as there's an issue we are looking at, but immediately in the past, and folk tales, in storytelling, this is what happened, and this is how we understood it. Now we move on to this place. Most of us wouldn't recall or might not even think that Accra once had trees. But the older folks will tell you that Accra had trees. But now they've cleared all the trees and what we have are buildings. It is through the language. And it's through the language that stories are created, stories are developed. You might not see its effect, but subtly it brings to mind what it means to be an eco-conscious citizen in your own society, in your own small way. So the impact of climate change is not, shouldn't we look at it as Otuo-Akyampong said, don't when you get to the international stages, we use the language there. When we come down back to where we come from, let's come back to our own experiences and how we can come together as one, come up with solutions that speak to our being and as citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you actually speaking of we being contextual with the issue at hand. I used to remember that in the past, the Traditional Society of Ghana then had rules and regulations that has to do with the gods do this on this particular day, because this thing is sacred. This thing is sacred. I mean, so people do not do certain things, especially at the water, at the sea side or the river banks. People do not go to the forest on certain days. People are not allowed to cut trees and all. In the past, yes, they used to protect the environment. But this question, I want to go to Emmanuel Ameyaw. What do you think is the current issue for us to forgo traditional ways of protecting the environment and leaning on to what we are currently seeing at the moment?
Thank you very much. But before I go into that, I would want to touch a bit on the issue in terms of context. When it comes to climate change, initially the discussion was more focused on something that is very far away from us. But in recent times, you could see that it's actually with us. If you go to Keta, the tidal waves that destroyed communities in Keta is a prime example of the impact of climate change. Really, the ice melting at the Arctic's, increasing sea level and then pushing inwards. The last time I was in Keta, you have a conversation with people and they will tell you that my house used to be here, and they are pointing towards the sea. So the sea is moving inwards, inland, wiping away a lot of coastal communities. So essentially their livelihoods will be destroyed and they have to move in and in. It's also estimated that a lot of islands will be submerged in the sea if we don't address the issue of climate change. And so that is something that is very clear in terms of how climate change is impacting Ghanaians directly. If you go up north, there are issues of women working long hours to get water. And again, that is why a government would come up like, let me do something about one dam and something like that village. because really there's issue of climate change that is impacting them. Again, flooding is an issue that we subscribe to it as a poor drainage system. But there are, if you watch carefully, the volume of rainfall we get recently is beyond just an issue of a drainage system. Clearly, the climate is shifting. When I used to work as a journalist, I had a conversation with some farmers. That's one of the last stories I did before I moved into proper advocacy. And I remember you have a conversation with some of the farmers, and they'll tell you that essentially they used to predict the rainy season and the dry season. So during the rainy season, they prepare and then they plant their seedlings, and then during the getting to the dry season, they harvest. Now during the harvest period, which is supposed to be dry, they experience heavy rainfall, and then their farm gets destroyed. And this also has an impact on food security. So in the coming years, how would we be able to farm without knowing how the rain will come and when the dry season would also prevail? And these are issues that hit home directly. Again, if you look at the Global Forest Watch, they spoke about Ghana as one of the leading countries in terms of forest loss. I mean, annually since about 2000, the year 2000, we lose about 3% of our forest cover. And the forest, we all know the importance of the forest in our climate dispensation in terms of cooling the environment, absorbing the carbon dioxide and all that. So it's with us. Plastic pollution, you go to the coastal communities, fishermen go to sea, they cast their net, and all they are getting is plastic. Very little fish, a lot of plastics. And so our livelihood or our actions and inaction is hurting the environment. We all would bear the brunt of this pollution. And when you talk about the traditional, our ancestors and old people developed certain kind of traditional rules to guide us, as it were, protect the environment. Let's say on Thursdays or Mondays, nobody should go to the farm, or in this month, nobody should go to the forest to hunt for animals, or the sea. We have so I mean, recently, one of the things the Fisheries Ministry did was the close season. It's something that is right from the textbook of our traditional leaders. So they close the sea so that people don't go to sea for some month or a month, so that the fish stock is replenished, so that they can get, you don't get to harvest the fingerlings or the small fishes. So I think that generally as a country, there's a lot we can learn from in terms of our traditional leaders, how they used to implement certain rules to protect the environment. But when it comes to the impact, we are really feeling that people are not really aware. Just like Daniel said, in terms of climate awareness, Afrobarometer report pegs it at 44%. About 44% of Ghanaians have never heard of climate change. They don't know what it's about. They don't know nothing. Like, so for such people, when you tell somebody not to burn, cut down trees, they don't really get the essence. Because let's say typically a forest, it provides about water, it's a water source, or provides water to about 4 or 5 million Ghanaians per the report, a Rocha report and all that. And when there's an attempt to destroy the forest or mine bauxite or something, if we have a citizen who are very conscious, eco-conscious, and they understand the importance of this forest, they will rise up and protect and demand that government halt. Again, the same with Achimota forest. Somebody who asks you about say almost declassify a and I say forest so people don't really know. Okay, so this we are in Accra. There's only green belt left. What is it? What is the purpose of living Achimota forest? And people don't have access to land. They want to build, but this forest plays a very important role in our ecosystem. And as much as we continue to create that awareness, and then we working with the traditional authorities and religious bodies, all these people must come together, because Ghanaians have a huge respect for traditional authority. And so sometimes they might not listen to government. You have all the nice policies, you have all the nice laws on the environment, but if people are not ready to listen, what other approach is possible? If let's say two forces don't do something, or Chihine or Tubafed and all our traditional leaders, people really pay attention. And so there are other options in terms of traditional leaders, religious bodies. At church, we can bring an environmental researcher or a conversationalist to come and create awareness. This particular Sunday after the preaching, we'll talk about the environment. All these are ways that we can use to protect or safeguard the environment whilst creating a conscious population who put the environment at the heart of what they do. And so that's what I can say with respect to the impact, and of course, linking it with our traditional authority and other relevant stakeholders.
Okay, thank you very much. When you were mentioning the fact that the sea was closed, honestly, for the first time when I saw that in the news, it was funny. And I didn't understand why the sea was closed. I believe a lot of us didn't understand because um, in the past, traditional leaders didn't even probably explain to us the reason why this is so and this is not so. And that is why we now in this generation have been called to lay emphasis on the fact that or the importance of open knowledge in protecting our environment. That is why we have all of you on board to tell us all those things. I believe, Ruby, if someone was telling you that um the sea is locked or being prevented for farmers for fishermen, sorry, to go out there to fish, what would be your first how do I call it? Your first understanding of the sea being locked or closed from fishermen?
I don't know if I get your questions right, but if someone tells me the sea has been closed, I'll definitely think that is one of those how do they call it? Cultural things, like because of traditional stuff like taboos. Yes. I think it's maybe a taboo, and maybe if you go there, you could die or something like that. So these are things that our forefathers or our traditional people used to do in order to prevent people from doing that. And you and I, when we were kids, were told that we don't have to sing in the bathroom. If you sing in the bathroom, something is going to happen to you. If you pound fufu in the night, something is going to happen to you. And we grew up seeing that all these things were not actually true, but they were put in place to sort of like prevent you from doing that, basically. And so these taboos that were set in place by indigenous people tend to preserve our environment and the things that surround us, like the water bodies and all that. So that's basically what I'll say. Talking about open knowledge is very important to us to help us to understand our society and also shape the attitudes of people. And I'll say a story. One day I was having a conversation with my partner, and he was telling me how we could get twice as much vitamins in apple in banana. So we could get 2 times in banana. So this knowledge itself can shape the way that when I go out, I'm going to buy food. It can tells me a lot. For instance, if I go out and I want to buy apple, I see banana, I know that, oh, banana has twice as much as the nutrients in apple. In the same way, when we, for instance, another story that I'll say is, one time I was looking for schools about Ghana, like secondary schools. I was helping my younger brother to select a school. So I wanted to read about school. And I went online and I was amazed that I could barely get any tangible information about all the schools in Ghana online. And this is so difficult because it made my decision making very difficult because I couldn't find what I was looking for. So imagine, do I need to visit each and every school to be able to decide which school that I want my brother to choose or select? And so this comes again, like a question again, if we're able to have information about our environment, about what is happening, about the research, statistics online, it helps people to appreciate what's going on in our environment. It helps people to better adapt to some of these problems. And at the moment, when we look at globally, we all understand that Africa is most vulnerable when it comes to climate change. But globally, when there's funding, Africa is least funded for climate change topics in the world. It's about 5% of the global funding, which is very low because as a country or as a continent which is most vulnerable to climate change being less researched, then we have a lot we have a lot to do to be able to understand the problem very well, which is why open knowledge is very important. We have people doing research about climate change, but some of these research are not even in open space for people to use or people to understand. They are on paid walls. So how do people even get that information to be able to make decisions in their places or wherever they are in Africa? So this is a very growing and worrying problem that we need to solve. And that brings me to say that Wikipedia has been one of the open platforms in the world that people go online to search for climate change information. And people will say that Wikipedia is not a credible source. Wikipedia, it's a very credible source because of its verifiability policy. They are not just information that are being written there from just nowhere. These information are being verified because Wikipedia is not a platform for novel research, which means that any information that is put on Wikipedia has a source or a reference that people refer to. And so Wikipedia is a very great platform for us to do a lot of these documenting, because I mean, look at the statistics for global funding for research. It means that a lot of research are not happening, but Wikipedia provides us that platform where we can do our research, because we've seen the news. There are a lot of news about happenings in our environment, in our societies and all that. So these are places where we can document some of these happenings and then come up with a nice research. Wikipedia functions more like a literature review where people add information from time to time. And so this is a very, I was reading an article about Ivory Coast toxic waste dam in 2006. I was very much impressed about that article on Wikipedia, because this was something that happened in 2006 where a ship from one of the countries dumped some waste materials at the port in Ivory Coast, and that led to more than 40,000 people seeking for medical attention, and about 17 people died as a result. And this is a very good research, extensive research that has been done by a lot of people from around Africa or from Ivory Coast or wherever they are, contributing to this article, giving us an understanding of what actually happened and how the situation impacted people and what was done. And this is a learning for everyone, because if I read this article and I see similar situation or happening in my country, I'll be able to prevent it. And that is what we are talking about: open knowledge that is accessible to everyone. And Wikipedia makes it easy, even much easy to find some of these information wherever you are. Because I mean, sometimes we're doing research, we struggle a lot to find where exactly these sources are, because there are a lot of things online. I mean, you can imagine when I go on the internet, I usually, it's easy for me to find things in Ghana than to find things somewhere else. But Wikipedia provides that one platform where it's easy for you to find that information that you're looking for, irrespective of where you are. And so if we're empowered to be able to put that knowledge on Wikipedia, I think our societies will be able to have easy access to some of this information that can inform our attitude, improve our attitudes, and further improve our environment. This is what I'll say briefly. I'd like someone also add to it.
Okay. Thank you very much for that insightful message on the open knowledge and what it can be used to do in promoting a better environment for all of us. So to Maxwell and Otuo, who are environmentalists and climate change activists, you have also been Wikimedians in the past and still are. What are you doing with open knowledge, or what do you seek to do with open knowledge in your advocacy? So I'll start with Maxwell.
Okay, thank you very much once again. So with the nexus of building or creating the synergy between open knowledge and climate is very relevant. And as a climate activist and then an educator and someone who's very interested in open I've been a part of Open Foundation for quite a number of years, and I've also served as a trainer. And also, I started the Kumasi Wiki Hub as well. So that gives a background on my interest area. So looking at the synergy, it's very relevant that everything that we know about climate crisis or whatever that we know now, it's based on information and then the knowledge out there. But then putting this in context, just as Ameyaw said, you realize that information over the years have gone through a process which has always been locally relevant and then culturally appropriate. These are two fundamental blocks that shapes knowledge. So if you look at the climate issues, you realize that you and I would only know climate issues based on the information that we have or information that we have read. Assuming if all this information you have to pay to access, it then brings an element of exclusion. Imagine if having access to libraries, you have to pay. It brings a form of exclusion to knowledge. So it creates a class system, which over the years, if you look through history or you read through history, you realize that the people who had access to knowledge one way or the other dominated or had that power. It created that class system where just a sect and a few people had access to knowledge. So we realize that if we were to look at that age, in this age, again, putting climate in context, you realize that those who may have had the information would contribute to only solving the climate issues. But I realize that being a part of the open movement or being a part of open, believing in the vision and then the mission of open, where information is made readily accessible and then readily open to all to read without being charged to remix, to use it in anyhow you want. You realize that understanding or having a blueprint on solving some of these issues first, you have to get to understand and know about the information. And that is where Wikipedia comes in. So Wikipedia tells people or everybody that, look, there is a platform that people are curating content, putting content there, have access to that content, read it, use it in anyhow you inform others about it. In fact, it even goes beyond just the English language. There are indigenous language, there are language communities that are springing up, all trying to decolonize the internet or decolonize the web on information sharing and then information access. So just as you said, as a climate activist, I believe in information. I read information every day. I have to stay on top of issues, and then that directs me to searching on the information. And now you know that in the 21st century, we have moved from where we used to go for information, but right now information is coming to us. So it shifts our mind as climate activists to know where to go to the internet for information, and not just be a receiver or a reader on the internet, but it gives you an opportunity to also contribute knowledge to the ecosystem as open. Let me give a clear case to whatever I'm saying. So, for example, there is this emerging community, which is the Ghana Pidgin community or language that is springing up. You realize that there are a lot of people who want to speak or would want to read in the Pidgin language. So as part of that, and as part of being a climate activist, what I can then do is to translate most of the climate issues or climate information that are in existence or create new ones so that people who ordinarily would be excluded will now be included. So that is the vision of open, having it in there for people to access it and bridge the knowledge divide, which is very, very relevant in the open. To end it up, Wiki for Human Rights had a line that I quote, and I love it very much. It says, access to knowledge about crisis is not available to everyone. And then against this backdrop is why they decided that, look, let us try and see how information about climate crisis will be readily available and accessible. So just to end all that I have said, the plenty talks and all that, is just to let us understand that we have just contextualized the climate issues together with our love for climate, and then still continuing with the advocacy, which makes us very relevant as climate activists.
Thank you very much. Otuo, if you are there, what can you add to what Maxwell has said so far?
Thank you very much, Christabel. I would always want to set a background to this, and I want to use this opportunity to do that. Normally, I do that when I have the opportunity. My colleagues have actually talked about the open space aspect, which I'll add more to it with time. But that's what I want us to look at and then understand. It's an opportunity for us to learn and also increase our understanding so far as climate change and the call to environmental sustainability is concerned. Now, I like what Daniel said earlier. I think the time for us as Ghanaians to change our approach towards climate change education is now. We have to move to a level where we can use evidence-based education to get people to the idea that climate change is happening and is actually killing our people. Yeah, I understand that it's a scientific concept, and then I don't need to go into it because most of us might not even know what greenhouse gases are, then the role they play in the environment. But from 1989, from the Montreal Protocol to the Kyoto Protocol of around 2005, though started in 1999, ratified in 2005, ran down to 2016 when we had the Paris Agreement. There has been this change in the structure or the strategy in addressing greenhouse gases, where they are trying to make it more practical for people to appreciate it. And so when Emma talked about the Keita Sea Defense Project, I think it's a nice opportunity for us to use that to explain to people in the Keita zone and in that the Avu Lagoon area. I've done some research work in that area very well, to explain to them, this is what is called impact-based analysis. So you take the people to the place. Just as he said, people will say, my house used to be here, it's no longer here. This is what you have to do to make people understand. Now, if you are my age, in the 90s, we had this program on television called By the Fireside. In the 90s, we realized that morals were declining. The moral levels in our children were declining. And so By the Fireside by Mame Dokono then was a means to be able to teach children to live with good morals. And so that is where we had Anansi, and then all they agreed what to end Anansi. So if you are around that, if you were young and you could see that around that time, you realize that every child wanted to watch By the Fireside. Indirectly, we were learning. So to our subconscious, they were teaching us good morals. To the 2000s, when HIV became an issue, and that was when they said just the MDGs. Then Things We Do for Love comes in to teach children and young people that HIV is real, and you have to live a just life. The ABCs of whatever came in. Now, these were structural approaches to be able to address the pertaining issue as at that time. But, and then I'll agree with what the WHO had said. The current issue we have in our country now is climate change. The current issue we have in our country now is environmental degradation. And so what are we doing to address these things? We need evidence-based analysis to be able to prove to people that is what we are doing. And so I work with a grassroots organization, and then people who lived in the cold zones, when you are coming down, they enjoy relief rainfall. So in the first 2 weeks in April, that has been the climate. They experience high sunshine. After the 2 weeks, they enjoy the relief rainfall. That has been the pattern there. And this year, I took rice farmers to the field to explain to them why things have changed. And so people will plant maize. Yeah, they'll grow maize in the first 2 weeks, awaiting the rainfall that will come. And this year, they had to cut down their maize and burn them because the rains didn't come at that time for them. That is climate change. And people should appreciate these things. So we have to get to a level where we use evidence-based education to explain to people. And then the language, as Danny said, we have started something as Eco Warriors. We are doing access to environmental information for all. I'm doing some storytelling with kids. I'm trying to reinvent the By the Fireside approach in a more environmental way. You remember Captain Planet in those days? I'm trying to reinvent it in the local language. So environmental information for what we are doing is that we are trying to translate all this climate information into local languages, and we are doing about 4 local languages now. so that people can appreciate it, people can understand what climate change is. I have had the opportunity to be in communities where people think that the change in rainfall pattern is as a result of punishment from the gods because of bad governance. And this is the mentality people have. We don't have to blame them because they don't know the science behind this whole thing. We have to take time to take them through it, through an evidence-based analysis for them to appreciate that climate change might not just be a case from the gods, but it might be from our own anthropogenic activities. So this is how things are going. Now, I talked about our susceptibility as a nation to climate change. You see, every nation is vulnerable to climate change at a point. So vulnerability to climate change is a subject of your susceptibility and then your adaptive capacity. This is a bit scientific, but I'll try to relate it. I'll try to calm down for us to understand. Now, a country like Denmark is a low-lying country, but half of it is low-lying. And so Denmark is susceptible to flood and therefore climate change with a high level in sea levels. But then because they have high adaptive capacity, in that they have been able to build dikes and stuff like that, able to protect themselves against it. So when you check the vulnerability of climate change, the vulnerability of Denmark to climate change, as to Ghana, you realize that Ghana is more vulnerable to climate change than Denmark, who is a low-lying country. Because in as much as we are not that low-lying, we don't have adaptive capacity. And so always our vulnerability rises. And this is where we have to explain to people that don't think of the fact that climate change is far from us because we don't have any adaptive capacity, or we have less adaptive capacity. The little that hits us becomes great. Now, in 2019, there was only one cyclone that occurred in Africa, and that was the one in Zimbabwe, Cyclone Idai. There were about 17 other cyclones, but we realized that Cyclone Idai killed around 400 people. That is the highest. Fatality was highest in Cyclone Idai that occurred in Africa. Just one, about 400 people. About 17 occurred in the Europes and Americas, and yet they recorded the least number of deaths. Why? Because they have high adaptive capacity, but we do not have. So this is the level we have to get to. Then let us try to say these ones in our local language so that the people will appreciate it. The local farmer who is at Kowufodwa, who is at Training Nyansa, who is at Shuaye Mobo, would have to understand this in a language he can appreciate. We talk all the big English, we speak all the grammar, and yet we don't get down to these people to explain to them. And yet they are the farmers who are highly hit by the impact of climate change. And that is where open knowledge comes in. That's why I love you so much. And so I go on to say that funding is a problem. Yes, I understand. But let's realize that compare the vulnerability of Ghana to a country like Nepal, to a country like Bangladesh elsewhere. As any global leader sits down and analyzes vulnerability, these countries are high so far as vulnerability to climate change is concerned than us. So they will shift more funds to those places. However, as Ghanaians, what are we doing? And so we introduce the principle of environmental tightening. We don't have to always sit down waiting for funding from elsewhere. I'm telling you as a gospel fact, some of this will not come. We have to take actions now. If we can pay 10% tithe to a God who we cannot see, how much more to the environment that sustains our lives as humanity? We should be able to get to the level where we can manage from our own funds, create a pool, and that will bring me to my 3 C's of development: collaboration, coordination, and co-creating. We need to collaborate, work as a team in solving these issues. If not, our children's children will always blame this generation. So we need to collaborate. We need to coordinate. Individual activities should be coordinated into a greater good. Then we need to co-create, and that is where the open knowledge comes in. I remember just recently, I put an article on Wikipedia on Batakari. Then somebody from UK messaged me, tells me that Batakari, he thinks this is how, I didn't even know myself, but he added some input to it through my talk. Then we agreed on it, I researched on it, and it was true what he was saying. Then we added a lot to it. This is co-creation. How can we just transport this into the environmental sector where we'll be co-creating knowledge? All of us on this platform, listening to me now, we have wild and good ideas. But the only good thing is that when these ideas are put together into a unit, we can harness its importance. And that is where we have to co-create solutions specific to Ghana as a nation, specific to your community, specific to your immediate environment. Solve the issue within there. So I normally say start local and then go global. So we have to be able to come out with ideas where we will co-create. And the open knowledge, the open movement has given us that platform. I love Commons so much because it gives me the opportunity to communicate my environmental stories in a graphical manner, in a multimedia form. People can appreciate it. We started a project where we're looking at converting this knowledge, climate information into GA, tree, whatever, some times ago, and it was wonderful. Yes, we got stuck with funding, so we have paused on that. We are organizing funding, and we will go in there, continue those projects. So what am I trying to end at? I think that the open knowledge has given us a tool, and then we should use that tool to be able to address our environment. But yes, how can they know if they are not told? Because we should always be mindful of the information that we put out there. And that is why some of us as environmental scientists, some of us as environmental advocates must get the information right, communicate this information to young people so that they can then look at the information that they have received, analyze it, digest the information, create locally made solutions, tailor-made for their environment, begin to share them using the open knowledge, and then we can make headway. I have had a lot of projects I have done using the open. Now, you remember just not long ago, we had the Wiki Green Conference where myself, Maxwell, and then, I think he's even here on this call. I saw him on the call. We put together, Stephen, we put together the Wiki Green Conference just to create the awareness. But then we have to go to the level where, as Daniel is using the local language, I am an Akan. I am using the Ashanti. That's what I'm doing. So I'm doing very well now of late. I try to speak the tree very well, because you look at even how the months are named. It tells you about the climate in those times. January, Opepon, that means Opepon. Ope means drought. Pon means greatest. So the highest or the greatest drought is supposed to happen in January. Then February becomes Ojifu. That means that in Ojifu, you are preparing for some showers of rain to prepare your farm. Then Obenim comes, the Oforisio comes in April. So Oforisio means that now you are getting the rains, so you can begin farming. So this is how our people in those times, so we need to begin to use this evidence-based approach to explain to our people why the climate have changed. Because now in Oforisio, Ojifu, you are not getting rains in Ojifu. You are not getting the showers that we expect in Ojifu. And that is what is telling you that climate change is actually happening. And so the change in rainfall patterns should be. Thank you very much. Let me end this.
You are going to speak on, and because your submissions are quite, I don't know, it's your field, and we could feel the emotions behind your submission. So we would like to take short statements from Daniel and Emmanuel Ameyaw from their own space, how they are looking at using open knowledge to create the awareness of the environmental crisis and how it can be kept. So we are using about 2-3 minutes to round up. So Emmanuel.
Thank you. The name is Ameyaw. You say Emmanuel Ameyaw. Okay, so I think that when it comes to knowledge sharing, it's one of the things. I work with the Youth Climate Council as a communications officer. So essentially, we develop communication tools to create awareness on climate change. On the 2nd of June, we had a climate reporting workshop. We organized a climate reporting workshop in partnership with the Center for Climate Change. Trying to do is to enhance the capacity of journalists to write stories. We are hoping that we could see a lot of climate stories on the front pages of our newspapers, climate stories dominating the news. If you look at what happened in Keta, it became an NDP versus NDC matter. The same way for Achimota Forest, became an NDP versus NDC matter. But in the heart of those conversations is the environment, climate change. And so for we as YCC and for we as young people, we are willing to partner with, the Open Foundation, West Africa, or other organizations that are present in this call. We are looking at how we can share knowledge and then help each other build our knowledge base, because you can't just go and talk about climate change when you don't have the means to communicate effectively on it. You should be able to explain it to the ordinary taxi driver on the street, the coconut seller, anybody, so that they are all aware. When they become conscious, when people become conscious, they understand the motive behind what they do and how it is hurting the environment. Then it's the first step in helping address this environmental degradation issue. So for me, I think Nana Otuo said a lot in terms of what open knowledge and sharing can do beyond Wikipedia. We can also organize workshops, like we have an effective climate communication workshop coming up in Kumasi on the 17th, I think. And researchers, PR people come on board and teach our young climate activists how they can communicate on climate change, talk about climate change in a way that resonates with people across all levels, secondary, university, the ordinary people on the street, anybody. And I want to encourage young people to be able to develop innovative ways of sharing climate information or knowledge. If you are knowledgeable in climate change or environmental issues, you have TikTok, you can do a video that snippet video, 30 seconds, 1 minute video, Instagram reel, the same thing. If you have basic knowledge in Canva, graphic design, you can just do some simple graphic template that shows very little information about climate or Ghana and the environment. For me, this is all some of the steps we can take in order to create that awareness and share knowledge, and together as young people, we can make the impact we want to make. There are a lot of opportunities, a lot of tools, there are a lot of things that we all can do, and in our own small way. Don't think that what you are doing is not relevant. I mean, they have the Eco Warriors and all other agencies or youth-led organizations that are doing amazing, and I think that going forward, it can only get better.
Okay, so going forward, it can get better. Daniel Anyariga, if you are there, kindly come in 2 minutes to sum up your submissions on the role of open knowledge.
So the role of open knowledge. So the media here, speaking from the media perspective, is that if the media churns out factual information or come out with information that's credible, it's also part of the open knowledge. Because when, let's say, for instance, the Achimota issue, now, surprisingly, Achimota Forest didn't have a Wikipedia article. What happened? Lots of the media houses had to write their stories. They had access to sources. Now, City FM, City TV sat down, did infographics, presenting the fact as it is. And this gave people a clearer picture of what Achimota Forest is and what is the issue at hand. So yes, in the area of open knowledge, we can look at it from the media perspective about it continuing playing its role by churning out quality information and facts. Then also the second part is that the media itself also goes in to dig information from other websites, collates them in various forms, and then packages and brings it out to the audience again. So it's in both ways, the media itself churning out content, and also the media also taking from the public and other sources to come out with something that is much more objective and informs the ordinary citizen. And let me also make this clarification here that the media is not only about the mainstream ones, where we hear City FM, City TV only. There are other forms of the media. So when you go into the communities, there are community-based radio stations. These people are also a medium through which you can get in touch with people. There are places where there are public announcement systems. So let's look at media not only as a mainstream only, but let's also look at it from the other areas where we can push the information and make information or knowledge accessible. And let's not only look at the technology aspect of open knowledge, but let's also look into the oral tradition as an open knowledge access. So if you have people who have lived through the experience and have information to share, kindly record them and write an article, put in the digital space for us to access. And that also contributes to the open knowledge movement, to making sure that, just as Ruby said, making informed decisions. Benjamin also talking about students having a better understanding to develop certain things in order to push the agenda. Then Otuo-Akyampong also coming in to say that let's look at how best we can inform the farmers, the people at the grassroots. And Emmanuel coming in to say, why don't you come join us and let's push this agenda. Let's put the information this way and much more effective approach. So in short, open knowledge depends on us all. If you don't make the knowledge accessible, if you don't make the oral tradition accessible to us, you wouldn't know. So we're all involved, just as Arise Ghana Youth would say. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We are all involved. So I would like to use this opportunity to thank all our speakers for their great submissions and making known to us whatever knowledge they have. open to all of us here on this platform. And I believe that we have all learned in our various spaces how we can all contribute to a healthy environment and a healthy planet. Yes, because we only have one planet, and that is planet Earth. And if we destroy it, then that is it. So I'll give space to about, okay, so Eugene.
I think Ruby wants to make a submission. So Ruby, if you can kindly.
Yeah, so my last contribution is we all show, I'm talking from the Wikipedia perspective. I want to encourage everyone to take advantage to learn about Wikipedia and how to contribute on Wikipedia. I'm saying Wikipedia because let me give you an example. Just last year, we saw high page views on climate change articles. And just on English Wikipedia, we had about 133 million page views on just articles about climate change, which is a very significant impact that these information are having out there. And when we looked at other Wikipedia in other language other than English, we had about 191 million page views in a year for only climate change articles. And it tells us how people are going online to look for information about climate change, about what is happening in our environment, as it has become the issue or the talk about of today. So it's very important that Africans take opportunity of this platform to increase awareness by contributing information about the environment on Wikipedia and Wikimedia Commons. Wikimedia Commons is a sister project of Wikimedia where we donate pictures, videos and all that. And these are things that people do not know how to use them, because when we look at the statistics in Africa, we realize that even when it comes to content about Africa, it's just 5%, which is very low. We are not well represented on the web. When people want to learn more about climate change impact in Africa, they are not finding those kind of information. And Wikipedia is one platform that is verifiable. We have a lot of experts contributing to this platform or checking to ensure that the right thing or the right information is put out there. And so I want to give everyone here the opportunity to be part of a training that is going to happen on the 24th and 25th of June this month in partnership with Youth for Climate Council and Open Foundation West Africa to learn how to contribute to Wikipedia. So it's a 2-day certificate course that I want to invite everyone. I think I'll let Eugene share the registration link. If you're interested to be part of the movement, to know how to contribute to these platforms, to leverage on your climate actions, please don't hesitate to register, and then we'll be with you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
Okay, thank you very much for making it known to our audience today, how they can participate in contributing knowledge on Wikipedia. So I would like to remind our audience that it is a friendly space, and that if you want to contribute or ask questions, you are to raise your hands, and then answers will be given to your questions. Eugene.
So quick one, please. Before we move on to the question and answer segment, I would want all of us to turn our videos. So we take a quick screenshot, and then we will have the questions and answer session. So if you can all turn on our videos. Great. I'm waiting for the others, especially the speakers. We want to see your faces. Great. So a few others, then we'll take the shots. Mr. Otuo-Akyampong, Maxwell. Great. Daniel.
Yes, can you take it again?
Okay, sure. So we are waiting on you, then we'll take the last one. Okay, so before Daniel joins us, on the count of 3, everybody say cheese. So 1, 2, 3, cheese. Thank you. Yes, Daniel is here, so let's do it one more time. So 1, 2, 3, cheese. Thank you, everyone. So, Christopher.
Okay, so as I said, the friendly policy, or the friendly, yes, it's a friendly space actually. So it comes to play here. If you want to ask a question, kindly raise your hand and then we will call you, as well as if you want to add up or make a submission or contribution to what our speakers have said, you have the right to, but please raise up your hand and then we take it from there. So the space, or we have like about 3 or 4 slots. Yes, so let's hear you. Okay, so since I'm not having hands being raised, I think we are all okay with how do I call it, everything that has been said by our guest speakers, or yes, I guess panelists.
It looks like somebody raised his hand, Francis Ofosu.
Emmanuel, are you saying something?
Someone raised his hand. Francis Ofosu. I can see a hand raised.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, Francis.
Yes, please.
The floor is yours. You can ask a question.
Oh, okay. Like you mentioned, my name is Francis Ofusukobia, CEO of OKF Tree Plantation and OKF Recycling in Eastern Region. In the first place, I want to thank the speakers. They have done wonderfully well. But I have 1 or 2, some of them are suggestions and some of them are questions. The Eastern Regional Forestry Commissioner has given my organization and one organization we call Waste Advantage Africa. It's also an environmental organization. 1,000 seedlings to be planted as part of this Green Ghana agenda. We have not gone for the seedling yet, but we are stuck with how we can go about it. Then another question I have is, I have packed about 24 bundles of plastic in my own house. We put it in a mosquito net. So about 24 of them, I want to give it to the recycling company because I don't have the machines to recycle them. So when I collect them, I ask the children and the women to pick them from me. But I'm looking for a company that those who recycle to give it to them as sales to also get something to give it to the women so that they will continue picking the plastic from me. So I wanted to use the opportunity to ask if maybe you know any of company like that. Hello.
Yeah, okay, so Francis, thank you very much for this Otuo Emmanuel Ameyaw, yes, with his question. Can any of you come in for him?
I'm not done. It's with the last.
Okay, you finish.
Okay. The last question is, initially, one of the speakers said we should translate this climate change and environmental education into our local languages. Myself and I have one colleague in Abri. We have been doing that. We have been going to the schools in Eastern regions here. Because of our resources, we are not able to go further, but we've gone to West African Senior Secondary School in Adenta and training girls, Abu Girls Training College. What we do is when we go there, we seek permission from the authorities. They give us a date. Then we sit down with the children. We educate them about the environment. I want to use this opportunity to share just a short successful story. A school invited us in Eastern region, Kufuridua. So we did this process education with them that they shouldn't burn them, they shouldn't be throwing them away. And we came back to sit in our own house. So a week later, the authorities called us that what we came to do has bear fruit. One of the children went to the house and he started collecting the plastics and told the parent that not to burn them because when they drink the water, they burn the plastic. And he told the reason why they shouldn't burn them. So the father, it was a new thing to the father. So he came to the school and told the teachers that when my son came to home today, he's been putting the plastics together and telling me that I shouldn't burn them. What is happening? And they told the father what we came there to do. So we've realized that it's already positive because when I'm in town, even some of the children have been saying, "Oh, when I'll buy a school, when I'll buy a school." So I was interested in localizing this climate change initiative. But my question is, we have the problems, we have the solutions. Some of us, I have a little organization, I'm ready to do those things. So are there any organizations which are ready to like partner or we can put ourselves together? Because I'm also from Eastern region here. For the tree, I can even write, not to speak alone, I can even write a tree. And I'm from the village, a typical village, so I can go to any part in Ghana to do the education in the tree language. But is there any organization that are doing that? These are my questions and suggestions.
Okay, so I think there are organizations doing that. So Otuo is here, YCC, that has to do with Emmanuel Ameyaw. So I'll kindly ask all speakers to drop in their contact details so that people from or the audience from today's session can get in touch with them if they need help or any partnership as to how they can go about it. Otuo, you wanted to address one issue of Francis. Kindly go ahead.
Yeah. Francis, thank you very much. I've also been working in the Eastern region, and then I'll share my contact in there and my email. You can reach out and we can talk more. So with the plastics, in fact, globally, it's about 40% of plastics that are being recycled. Now, I'm speaking a bit fast because of the time. I want to cut everything short. In Ghana here, we are doing less than 25%, but it's only a part of them that are mostly recycled. The PET type. So there are different types of plastics. I can't go into it because of time. And then today we are not doing more of plastics. But then you have to look out for in the Eastern region. I have actually not seen any company or any let me say SME into that. But in Ashanti region, I have a lot I'm working with. So you can get a PET type. Those are easily recyclable. And then what they can do is that they can grade them, differentiate the colors. They can then take them to Tema. There's a company that buys them and then reuse them. And so, yeah, for the plastic. And then for the sachet water that we see around too, there are some companies in Kumasi who are reusing them. And some companies in Accra who are actually doing good with them. And so the only thing you need to do, like I said, we need to collaborate. There's supposed to be a network. Koleba Ghana is doing a lot of stuff so far as plastics is concerned. So when you start something in that move, you reach out to them to find out where you can get the support from. Normally, you collect them because you cannot recycle. You only provide a collection point. You collect them, then you give it to these guys who will recycle them at a fee. That will also help you to get some plowback into investing into your community and other stuff like that. And then on the converting or translating climate information into local languages, there's a project we are currently doing on that. I'll share a link to one we did last year in the chat box. You can look at that. You can always reach out to me. I'm always in for teamwork, collaboration. We have to coordinate and we co-create. So I'm always in there. Then we can talk more about this thing. So I'll share my contact as well, and we can talk more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And like I said, speakers can add in the chat box their contact details so that people can get in touch with them for more details and how to go ahead to create awareness on these environmental crises. So yeah, Emmanuel, do you want to say something?
I was just adding up that the YCC, we've got about 400, a network of about 400 young activists and youth-led groups all across the country, like youth-led environmental organizations. And so we can connect him to some of the organizations, and then they can partner probably to help in the recycling, or they can buy it and then also recycle. So I think that at this point, one of the things we are really committed to is partnership, because one person cannot do it alone. So within the circular economy, somebody is collecting, somebody is transporting it, other person is buying and doing the recycling. And so it's a good initiative he's doing, Mr. Ofosu, and we'll try and encourage you to link up with the YCC. We can try and also link you to other organizations who are within your space, and your plastics will be of great benefit to them. They can buy it and then also continue with the recycling and all that. So yes, I'll just drop my email address. You can also send me an email and then we'll take over from there.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ameyaw. Dr. Kodima, your hands are raised, so if you can kindly ask a question.
Yes, it's evening and good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, I have a quick question, but I will actually say I've attended so many trainings and workshops on climate change, but this is more of practical, and then there's a local-based approach, which I'm actually glad to be part. But the question I have is, if my friend Otuo talked about collaboration and partnership, here we have different organizations who are into this climate fight. And we also have individual advocates, like Emmanuel mentioned. And one of the problems has to do with duplication. And then the wastage in resources. Here we have an organization in the same district, another in the same district, doing the same thing, the same community over and over. So my question is, how can we actually collaborate? How can we actually team up? And how can we harness our resources together and fight one cause? Because we've been talking about all the programs, they will talk about, oh, teamwork, collaboration, let's collaborate, teamwork, but it's not happening. We have maybe Otuo's organization, which is a Eco Warrior Movement. I Center for Food Security and Environment, fighting the same cause, maybe the same district, but we don't even know we are all in there. So I want to know from the speakers, what's their approach, or what would they suggest for we to actually harness our resources together and fight one cause, than not to push more on this duplication? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Doc. Let me have a quick reaction to this. In fact, that has been the challenge now. We are always reinventing the wheel. That is why that was one of my 3 C's. And so what we can do now is, I like the Youth Climate Council. So they are trying to bring all these organizations together. Then there's also an SDG. There is this group by Kojo Dems on SDGs. So depending on the SDGs you're looking at, you join the group, CSO's coalition for SDGs. So it's also there, though most people are not aware of it, but as you come on, just that for that, the requirement is a bit high, because you should have registered, because to be able to accept it as, you should have registered the organization, you have a few things, but that is also there. You can join. Then the Youth Climate Council is there, which actually my organization is part of all these ones. Then there's another one that at the community, the district level, we practice there, the local governance structure. And so at the district level too, you can register, EPA has only regional offices. So you can register at the district office with your municipal MMDA offices with the welfare, how do they call it? They call it the welfare, whatever, for where NGOs register. Then you let them know that you are into environment and sustainability. They can get you the data of organizations in that. Then you begin to bring them together. I started it, but I'm a bit busy, so I've left it for some group to do it. You can all come together. Then there are networks. In fact, in the Ashanti region, there's something we have as Ashanti Regional Youth Network, where we have a wing, where we are. So those into environment, you try to mobilize all and then bring them together. Then at the regional level, the EPA is there. So you register with the EPA. Now, when you register with the EPA, they have data of all organizations that are in the environment or the environmental space that are doing some work. You can pick the data from them. And then if you want to do that, you can reach out to me. I can link you up to even the national EPA director, so that we can do that in your region. You give your cover letter if that they need be, so that you can go to the region and get the data and can start mobilizing. But the problem is that when I started doing this, and I realized that we still need to do awareness. People think you want to pick their shine. People think you want to lead them. So you are doing that because of power. You just need power. You just so that you can govern and you can lead them. And the people are a bit, apprehensive when it comes to those things. And so we need a little bit of awareness creation. That is why, personally, I'm not leading any of such groups again, but I'm trying to build advocacy that we should be able to learn to coordinate, to collaborate, because teamwork should be situational leadership, where the person with the core competencies at any point in time leads the group to achieve the set purpose. And this is what people should understand. So we should get this one into our people so that they would want to join groups. Because when you join groups, it even gives you a lot of opportunities. Like, for instance, right now, the guy was talking about doing some work in the Eastern region. As soon as you get into Youth Climate Council, we are linking you up, and that is what we want. And so, yes, we are doing advocacy at this level, and then I've given these structures we can also use to get ourselves embedded in the greater body of the people working in the environmental space. I don't know if I've been able to help, but this is a little I can do. You can keep talking more on that. Thank you.
I want to add up. Thank you. I want to add up to what Otuo said. In terms of, there are a lot of vested interest, but if you look across the country, there are a lot of young people doing amazing stuff all over the country, but we need a common voice and a common platform. One of the things I realized in my practice as a journalist, and again, moving into advocacy, is that government and the key stakeholders would only want to engage you if you have the numbers. Now, you as a single entity, you go to engage EPA or MESTI, and then they will bring this letter, bring that. And so when we had a conversation with the ministry and the EPA, they told us that, you know what, we need a unified front where all a council which all youth-led or any environmental organization is part of, and then we can tap into that. So let's say for YCC, we have about 400 members across individuals and then organizations, and we've categorized each person into their interests. So there are people who have interest in open knowledge, communication. There are people with renewable energy, people plastic recycling and all that. And so once the ministry or any agency links up with the YCC, okay, you know what, we want organizations that are working within the space of plastic recycle. Quickly, we can touch base with Poliba or this. We send an open application that, you know what, this is the chance that they want 5 people within this space. And then we do what? We link up with them and we create that facilitation rule. If oftentimes there's a lot of competition within the space, people just like, you know, people want the shine, people want to lead, but we are all having a common interest in protecting the environment. So for YCC like this, we are not trying to fight or being in competition with anybody. Since we started, we've always shared resources, tools. We do a lot of workshops. We do a lot of workshops that are knowledge. We did a comms workshop. We did one for journalists. We are doing one in Kumasi as well. We had the Advocacy Seed Funding Initiative, which was supported by UNICEF. UNICEF thought that it is a great idea to have a council which comprises of all youth-led organizations as far as the environment and climate change is concerned. We continue to share travel opportunities, conferences, workshops. There are tools and resources as well. We want to do this to enhance and build capacity for all activists across the country. We believe that this fight is not something that only one person can do. Everybody must play a role, and we must see each other as partners, not competitors. If you help me, I help you. We drag each other together. And so for me, your question is very valid, but again, I will encourage you that I'm not trying to market the YCC, but again, I'm trying to encourage you that you join the YCC. There's a lot of opportunities out there. We can link you to other people. I mean, we have the Volta region. We have regional focal points all across the country. And the organization you mentioned, West Africa, I think there's a lady called Lydia. She's also part of our Lydia Kokokwaku. I think she's part of us. She works with us on the secretariat. So let's see how we can partner. It's very important that we foster that partnership, because there are times where you would need funding. There are times where you would need support in certain ways. There are times that you need even the human resource. And all these things, we can tap into that. We will give you people who are competent and would help you enhance your work at the various communities. And so I think that let's see how it
Thank
goes.
you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Ameyaw. Thank you to everyone for your time, your patience, and yes, for using your data for this our partner. Okay, so I want to use this to thank every one of you, especially our speakers, and the overall of it goes to our audience for your patience once again, for your time. Can you? Okay, thank you. The session has been very educative because today we have known how open knowledge can help us in creating the awareness and making known to people what is at stake and what we will lose if we do not rise up urgently for a lot of things to be addressed. So thank you once again for everything once again, and I want to bring the event to an end. Thank you. My name is Crystal Olami, and I'm the Programs Officer for Open Foundation West Africa.
Thank you. Have a nice and enjoy the rest of your day, I must say.